Saudi Arabia's economy has been under pressure ever since oil prices started falling 3 years ago, and the latest figures show just how bad the damage has been. It now says GDP shrank in 2017 for the first time in 8 years. But it's responding with its biggest spending spree ever. On Tuesday, King Salman announced the country's budget for 2018, and he's put the kingdom's austerity plans on hold. The total outlay is just over $260 billion. That is the kingdom's highest spending amount in its history. And at least half of this money will come from non-oil revenues and loans. Despite plans to spend more in 2018 than it has in any other year, the government expects a similar deficit as it recorded this year. While much of the money will pay for infrastructure projects, at least $8 billion will be doled out to Saudi citizens to kickstart the economy. Ellen Wald joins me now live from Jacksonville in Florida. She's a non-resident scholar at the Arabia Foundation and the author of the upcoming book, Saudi Inc. Welcome as always, Ellen. Great to have you on the show. First off, can Saudi Arabia afford to spend as much as it's planning on doing?
Well, I think it can afford to spend as much as it's planning on doing, especially because the country's foreign reserves are still quite high. In fact, it has enough. If it spent at the current deficit rate that it's running, it would have enough in its current foreign reserves for about 10 years at that rate of spending.
What has been the main impetus for them to cut back on the austerity program? I mean, are they more comfortable now because oil prices have come off the lows that we had, or has there been social pressure?
I think that it's really the economic indicators that we saw in October indicating that the Saudi economy was sliding perhaps into a recession. And that's something that the Saudi government would really like to prevent. So I think that they are definitely looking to push some more money into the economy. At the same time, though, they are keeping up with some of the new taxes and fees that they're hoping will generate revenue, like higher gasoline prices. They're basically cutting the subsidies that the government has had in place on gasoline.
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has said that the crackdown on corruption that we've seen in Saudi Arabia this year, the arrests of so many of the richest people in the country, could raise of the order of $100 billion. Are these projections part of the calculation that it's making in its deficit reduction projection?
That's a fantastic question, and I don't know the answer to that. It's possible that they are including that in their projections, but it's also possible that they haven't yet factored that in. And so I definitely think that will be something to watch out for, especially to see, maybe as the year goes on, see how they're doing and whether or not that they put more pressure on some of these people to kind of cough up the money that they have apparently been squirreling away in these corruption cases.
So as its deficit narrows, is the impetus to diversify away from oil going to diminish in any way? I mean, because that was part of the whole reason why it got into this whole program in the first place, including the Saudi Aramco IPO and all of these things. So will that impetus come off slightly, do you think?
It seems like it's not. In fact, they're looking to get about, I think, 3.7% growth in their non-oil sectors. And in 2017, that growth was only about, I think, 1.5%. So they're really aiming to more than double their growth of non-oil sector parts of the economy. What's interesting is that at the same time, they've lowered the tax burden for Aramco from about 85% to only 50%. So even though oil prices are higher, they are still, than they were in previous years, they're still probably getting less revenue from oil because of that.
So do you think any of this has any bearing on the Saudi Aramco IPO that's scheduled for next year?
I think that just shows that, everything is progressing as planned. I think we'll start to see more information coming out about it, as things progress, but it definitely seems like they are kind of marching forward on the same plan.
And finally, I mean, they have also delayed the deadline, I suppose, for when they want to eliminate the budget deficit to 2023. Is that a worrying sign, do you think?
I think that it's not a worrying sign, given that their budget deficit isn't all that large, and they could actually cover it with their foreign reserves if they wanted to. I think that they're more concerned about potentially going into a recession, and so that's why they don't want to clear up that budget deficit too fast and push them over into recession. This is actually something that they faced and that they mismanaged in prior years in their history.
Author and scholar Ellen Wald, thank you ever so much.